The Rangers have offered Martin Perez a qualifying offer. They have missed out on Clayton Kershaw. I'm breaking down what all of that means on today's show. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, the founder and host for all 4 seasons for all 4 seasons. I've messed up my own intro that I've done 100 million times, but it's Friday. My brain is just raring to go with all the possibilities. Today is Friday, November 11th. Happy Veterans Day to all of you out there, including my own brother. I know he hates it, but thank you for your service. Happy birthday to my mother. Don't worry, I have already called her like a good son. This is not my first birthday shout out, but I would be remiss if I didn't shout out the family on their birthdays. But thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers and subscribe on YouTube and comment anything below. Comment anything below to help grow the show. Just completely butchered the entirety of this intro, but it's fine. You know, I was going to say something clever about my own goof up on Twitter last night, which might be my last goof up on Twitter if it ceases to exist in the next 2 weeks, like it's looking like it might be. But we're going to get into all of my goofs and Martin Perez and all the left-handed pitcher news. But first, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before, because BetOnline is where the game starts. Now, the Rangers have officially offered Martin Perez. They extended the qualifying offer, which is a 1-year deal worth $19.65 million. And he has until, Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Time to decide if he is going to accept it or reject it. If he does decide to reject it, the Rangers will get a competitive balance B pick if he does decide to sign with some other team. That competitive balance B pick comes after the second round and before the third round, so switched in there. Not the competitive balance A pick that some of the other top tier free agents teams would get if they decide to lose. One of those being, I believe, Jacob deGrom and I think Aaron Judge. I'm not exactly sure who else qualifies in there, but I know those two top guys are going to be in there if they decide to sign with some other team. So, yeah. That is the deal with Martin Perez at this point. It's a lot of money. It's a big raise from the $4 million that he made this year. And according to Spotrac, for his career, he has made $34.2 million. That's nearly, if he signs that offer for next year, he'd be making nearly 2/3 of his entire career earnings in 1 year, almost doubling it up to, $53.8 million. I need to stop trying to do math live on the show. It just shows exactly how dumb I am. And, I thought my takes would do that well enough. But yeah, it seems like a lot of money. It's a significant raise. But according to Spotrac, I finally did find what Spotrac thought that his market value would be. It was kind of a question for me. I pegged it somewhere around the $15 million, around a 4-year deal. I've seen different things earlier in the year. I think about, maybe it was a week ago, maybe it was just a few days ago, Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News projected somewhere around $15 million, kind of what he was suspecting when he talked about extending him the qualifying offer. He said that he expected him to get somewhere between $4 and $5 million, less than that if he was to accept a long-term contract. According to Spotrac, they have him pegged at $17.9 million average annual salary, average annual value, and the market value for a contract they're predicting would have predicted somewhere in the 4 years, $71.69 million range would be pretty nice. They have competitive contracts with him in Luis Castillo, who got 5 years, $108 million. Marcus Stroman, who got 3 years, $71 million. Joe Musgrove, 5 years, $100 million. Kevin Gausman, 5 years, $110 million. Now, I think the Stroman deal is the most like what he has done. Stroman had been okay and bounced around a little bit, not had anywhere near the great season that Martin Perez had, but he hadn't had nearly as many bad seasons as Perez had either. It seems like the Rangers view him more of a middle of the rotation starter, and this year as a bit of an aberration. But I don't think so. I don't think he's necessarily going to be this every single year moving forward, but I think he has really turned a corner. This is another thing that Evan recently wrote after they officially extended him the qualifying offer. He said that they were hesitant to go. Where do we go? I swear I have so many quotes in here. Said that they were, quote, not so sure. The Rangers were, quote, not so sure about $13 million or more for 3 years, end quote. Now, if the offer was $13 million a year for 3 years, I don't know why the heck they didn't sign that deal immediately. That would be an absolute bargain. Even if he is a middle of the rotation pitcher, even if he is just, a guy who goes out and gets you 180 innings-ish a year and an ERA above 3.5, between 3.5 and 4.5, even if you get that, that's a really good deal, especially in this year's market. A guy who can give you a whole lot of innings. Obviously, John Gray has had some injury issues. Dane Dunning has only pitched 150 innings or more in a season once, and that was this year. And he had a hip surgery. Don't know exactly how he's going to come back off of that. I'm hoping he's fine. I'm thinking he should be just fine, but he is a number 5 starter. You need a lot of innings from all of your starters, especially the reliable ones. For all of Martin Perez's flaws, he has been incredibly healthy throughout his entire career, and he is coming off the best season that he has ever had. And if he goes and he does a season like this again, if he has a season similar to what he did this year, or even better, if he has an even better season, then you're going to be paying him about $20 million or more a year for at least a 3-year deal. Maybe they wouldn't mind that, and they're willing to take that risk that he is going to repeat that. Granted, they know how he's pitching and how they have a lot more metrics and hands-on view, and are just generally smarter about baseball than me to see, okay, them thinking that maybe this is an aberration. I think if John Daniels was still in charge, he probably would have offered him the 3-year deal. But also this bothers me because the entire point of keeping Martin Perez around through the second half of the season was that, hey, we want to have an exclusive negotiating window to negotiate a contract extension. That window is gone. It's gone. They have wasted that time. Maybe he still can't talk to anybody until Tuesday, and maybe he does sign the qualifying offer. But the whole point of not trading him, not capitalizing on his value, which I think the Rangers could have gotten a decent haul for him. Granted, they'd only have him through the end of the season, but Perez pitching fantastic, and every single one of those playoff teams could have used, well, maybe the Astros couldn't have, but almost all of those playoff teams could have used a starter like Martin Perez, even if he kind of regressed a little bit. Still, there was a lot of need for depth. The Padres really could have used another starter. The Phillies really could have used a 4th starter so they could have an actual competent starter. Going in Game 4, wouldn't have to just punt and go with 3 innings from Noah Syndergaard and 2 innings from Kyle Gibson. Like, Martin Perez was better than that this year, and I don't know why they decided to do that, but maybe it was because Chris Young is in charge now, and this is a different way of doing things for him. We're going to get into a little bit more of that, a Silver Slugger award, and some more minor transaction of the Rangers clearing up some 40 spots, and some really hilarious and weird news coming out of Houston. But first, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number 1 source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, we've got it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more, because BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Yeah, it is a great place to check out those websites. Again, make sure if you're looking to place your bets on BetOnline, it is the best place to go. Again, BetOnline is where the game starts. Now, let's take a little bit of a look at what is going on other than the Martin Perez fiasco with the Rangers. They have missed out on Clayton Kershaw. He has signed a 1-year deal. He is in the process of going to sign, close to signing. It's going to happen. Clayton Kershaw is going back to the Dodgers. Seems like this year's fiasco and Funapalooza, whatever you want to call it, is a little less dramatic. It kind of always felt like that Clayton Kershaw was going to go back to the Dodgers. He's going to be signing somewhere around a $17 million deal, about what he signed last year. Probably a lot less than what he is worth, but he wants to stay with the Dodgers. And it kind of seems like at this point, even though I'll probably trick myself next year into thinking, oh, maybe this is the year he comes to Texas. Now, it seems like he's going to be a Dodger for life. And you know what? Good on him. More power to him. I don't blame him in the slightest. I think part of me just really wants Clayton Kershaw to pitch in a Rangers uniform just one time. Would be a lot of fun to see that, but I don't think that that's necessarily happening. But it lets the Rangers kind of fix their sights. I don't know how fixed they were on bringing Clayton Kershaw in, but it lets them fix their sights now on either Jacob deGrom or Carlos Rodon, or, anybody else at the top of that free agent market. But there was some other news that happened this week. Nathaniel Lowe has won his first ever Silver Slugger award. He was a fantastic Silver Slugger award winner, excellent offensive first baseman, and an excellent offensive player in general. One of the best offensive players in the American League this year. Absolutely loved that for him. Nathaniel Lowe was a first-time winner at first base in the National League. It was Paul Goldschmidt, which makes sense because he was the Henry Aaron Award winner for the best offensive player. Aaron Judge won that award for the American League. Duh. Makes sense. Second base was not Marcus Semien. It was, unfortunately, Jose Altuve. It was Xander Bogaerts, which was a little surprising that Corey Seager didn't win. I think that there was a slightly higher OPS from Xander Bogaerts, and I don't think it was as much focused on just the slugging portion. It was more of an overall offensive award, which I think might be why Nathaniel Lowe won it over some of the other guys he was up against, because I think overall offensively his numbers were better than everybody else. Seager's slugging numbers, his home run numbers were a career high, and everything else was kind of in the tank this year. Talked a lot about his offensive numbers versus expected numbers. I think that's going to balance out a little bit next year. His at-home numbers, if he could just play 162 games at Globe Life Field, he might win a freaking MVP, because he has been offensively excellent at home and just needs to figure out how to hit on the road. Yeah, Adolis Garcia did not win in the outfield. That was Aaron Judge. It was Julio Rodriguez and Mike Trout, who missed 43 games this season. Only played 119, was still absolutely fantastic. He had 40 home runs this year and missed a quarter of the season. Mike Trout is just freaking phenomenal. But congrats to Adolis Garcia for even getting nominated. That was really a cool thing for him. But I really didn't think he would finish out a winner. Still a winner in our books, and a nice season for him. There were a lot of other minor moves made by the Rangers. Let's see, where do we go? From Rangers PR, this is all that happened on November 10th, which was yesterday. Infielder Andy Ibanez acquired by Detroit via waiver claim. Right-handed pitcher Tyson Miller acquired by Milwaukee via waiver claim. Right-handed pitcher Drew Stoutman. I vaguely remember him existing on the 40-man roster. He is acquired by San Francisco on a waiver claim. Same with Mabrys Valoria. He's in San Francisco. Jesus Tinoco was assigned outright to AAA Round Rock. Mitch Garver, Brad Miller, Josh Spores, and Eli White were all activated from the 60-day IL, and Nick Solak was traded to Cincinnati in exchange for cash considerations. A lot of minor moves, a lot of moves that are just gateway clearing out the entire bottom, what is this? There's a lot of players at the bottom end of the 40-man roster. The Rangers are going to have a 40-man crunch this year. It's going to be interesting to see who they protect. I'm not surprised by any of these names being moved on from. Maybe just Valoria had a really nice little stint here at the major league level. Pretty good AAA season. He's fine. Rangers have several catchers, and all of them, at least all the three that are probably going to spend some time in the major leagues this year, are going to be ahead of Mabrys Valoria, but he did a great job when the Rangers needed him, and hats off to him. Andy Ibanez was a nice little stint there last year, and just did not get a chance this year. I think probably could have given a little bit longer of a leash, but he didn't, and that's the way it goes. Tyson Miller had some nice, important innings eating at the end of the year. Jesus Sunoco, same with him. Both of them had some pretty solid inning eating. I believe it was Jesus Sunoco that was the one that gave up the Aaron Judge 60-second home run, if my memory serves correctly, and I think that it does. But hats off to all of them, but not really a place for them at the end of the roster. I thought there might be a decision on Eli White at this point. I thought they might end up cutting bait with him because of how well Bubba Thompson did, but apparently not. They really like him. Don't really get it. He's fine, but I think they might have to end up making a decision on him later on when the Rule 5 draft comes along, because the Rangers have a lot of guys that are going to be on the borderline of that Rule 5 draft that they're going to want to protect, maybe even more so than Eli White. Coming up, we're going to get into some weird news coming out of Houston and a little bit more of a look at what the qualifying offer means for the Rangers and some players the Rangers could look to sign and why it won't be as penalizing as it was last year. First, this word from our sponsors. So the weird news coming out of Houston is that after winning a World Series, their second in franchise history, their first without a massive cheating scandal attached to it where everyone had to go, they have offered their GM a 1-year extension, James Click, and he thought, no, I just helped you win a World Series. I deserve a multi-year deal. And they're like, no, that's fine. We're just going to offer you a 1-year deal. And so they're parting ways. He's gone. The GM that just helped them win a World Series in the middle of all this scandal. He didn't build the entire team. He is not Jeff Luhnow. He did not draft and develop a lot of these guys, but he helped them get back there. He helped them, right the ship in the middle of all of this nonsense. They have been a really darn good team, have made, 7 straight ALCSs, which is absolutely insane. And they have made, 4 World Series appearances? Lost to 2 of the AL East teams, almost lost to 3 in the same division. I would have loved to see that trend going if the Astros were going to continue to be good, just losing to a different AL East team with, a worse and worse record every year. They almost did it, but, it seems like the Marlins and Mets aren't going to get their chance to beat the Astros as 88 and 86 win teams in the next couple of years. Bummer, but, trend had to end sometime. But I really don't understand this move. This is one of those, we tried. We wanted him to come back. We kind of valued what you did, and they sent this nice feedback. Oh, thank you for all that you did. But we're not. If winning a World Series doesn't get you a multi-year contract extension, I don't know what in the heck could as a GM. It literally makes zero sense. They also just lost their assistant GM to, I believe, San Francisco. I'm not exactly sure where he went, but I know that he left them, and unless you were planning on promoting that guy, and even if you were, then you should probably extend the guy who's in charge now. But I don't know where they're going to go. I don't know why you would let this guy. It seems like there's no backup plan. It seems like absolute cheapskatery from Astros ownership, who has let several key free agents walk the last few years. Is probably going to let another one walk this year in Justin Verlander. I don't see him necessarily coming back. They let Carlos Correa walk. They let George Springer walk. They let Cole, old Garrett Cole, walk. I don't see why they're not going to continue doing that trend, but they've been so good at developing players on the cheap that, Jeremy Pena comes up and he is the first ever rookie to win a World Series MVP. Was really darn good in his year replacing Carlos Correa. Eventually, Jose Altuve is going to get too old and retire. Eventually, some of these other guys are going to get too expensive and be free agents. Framber Valdez is not going to be cheap and controllable forever. Same with Christian Javier. I know they have Hunter Brown that just came up and is probably going to be absolutely amazing. And, eventually that pipeline runs dry if you don't continue to keep the guys who are drafting and finding these guys for the cheap that they have done a really, really great job with, better than almost anybody in baseball, which just pains me and frustrates me to all heck to say. But this just is a mind-boggling move. I wish them nothing but the worst. I hope that James Click goes somewhere else and develops some amazing team somewhere else. And the Astros live to rue the day they let him walk. But knowing the Astros and knowing how things have been going for them lately, they're probably just going to end up with someone amazing. Or there's going to be some cheating scandal that comes out, next year that they would have had to fire James Click for anyway. And maybe then the players who were involved in multiple cheating scandals will get some kind of punishment. I don't know. Probably not, because Major League Baseball doesn't like to actually punish the players who were involved in things like that. It's fine. I'm fine. We're all fine here. But just an absolutely mind-boggling thing. Nice to have just the smallest laugh at the Astros, even though they did just win a World Series. Nice to have some little moment of levity. But there is a little bit of a reworking of the restricted free agent signing, the qualifying offer, and all of that good stuff. There have been, I believe, 14 players that were offered the qualifying, or were extended the qualifying offer. Those include Aaron Judge, Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts, Jacob deGrom, Dansby Swanson, Carlos Rodon, Brandon Nimmo, Wilson Contreras, Chris Bassett, Anthony Rizzo, Tyler Anderson, Martin Perez, Jock Peterson, and Nathan Eovaldi. Now, of the guys who are going to accept this offer, I think Nathan Eovaldi, Jock Peterson, and Martin Perez are probably the most likely to accept that offer. I mean, Eovaldi is coming off a really not great season. The season before, he had a fantastic year. Finished top 10 in Cy Young voting, was just absolutely amazing career year. This year, injuries kind of limited him. Even when he was pitching, he wasn't nearly as good as he was the year before. Jock Peterson has been taking less than $10 million a year for the last couple of years. And it's a pretty darn big upgrade. I don't think the Rangers are going to risk losing draft compensation when they do consider signing someone like Jock Peterson. For someone like Jacob deGrom or Carlos Rodon or even Brandon Nimmo, I think the Rangers would definitely consider it. Or if they were, considering Trey Turner, Aaron Judge, Xander Bogaerts, which I don't think they are, those guys would definitely be worth it. But there are some new penalties for teams that are signing these big free agents. In years past, unless you were, I believe, in the top 10, you had to forfeit a first-round pick, and then everyone after that, you would have to forfeit your next draft pick and next draft pick. Last year, the Rangers did not have to forfeit their number 3 overall pick. They picked Kumar Rocker, but they had to forfeit their second and third round picks and maybe a fourth round pick. I can't remember where Brock Porter was picked, whether he was in the 4th or the 5th round. Doesn't matter, but they lost their second and third round picks. I know that for sure. This year, it's a little bit different. These are the penalties from Jeff Passan that are for a team signing a player with the qualifying offer. These teams have to forfeit second and 5th round picks plus $1 million in international bonus pool money. Those teams are the Boston Red Sox, the LA Dodgers, the New York Mets, the New York Yankees, Philadelphia Phillies, and the San Diego Padres. I believe this is tied to how much money these teams are spending, not necessarily where they finish the season. These teams have to give up second round picks, no 5th round, and $500K in international bonus pool money. These teams are the Atlanta Braves, the Chicago Cubs, Houston Astros, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, San Francisco Giants, St. Louis Cardinals, and Toronto Blue Jays. These teams only have to give up a 3rd round pick. This is literally everybody else, all the teams that are not spending a whole bunch of money. Somehow the White Sox made it in this group, and the Rockies, who have a really, really high payroll. Maybe there's some kind of combination of how poorly the team did plus how much they spent. Boston did really poorly, but still spent a whole bunch of money, which is kind of interesting. But the Rangers are in this group. So if the Rangers do sign Rodon or deGrom or if someone else with a qualifying offer, they are only going to lose a 3rd round pick. Now, I'm not entirely sure. I said before, I thought that the deal was once you extend a qualifying offer to your own player that you can't sign them to a multi-year deal. I don't know if that's the case, because in that case, Jacob deGrom would probably not be signing with the Mets, and it would seem like at this point the Rangers are the top choice. I don't think that just doesn't. I can't go there just yet, because if I go there, then I'm going to be jumping off the deep end into excitement and with the risk of just pure depression on losing out on Jacob deGrom. But I'm going to have to go and research that, and I will get back to you on Monday to see if that is the case, because with the new collective bargaining agreement, there are a lot of new rules. Obviously, this is a new rule of the different levels of punishment for teams signing restricted or qualifying offer free agents. They're not really restricted free agents. I don't really know what the actual term for it. In every other league, they're called restricted free agents. In this league, this silly league that I cover, they are called qualifying offer players. So I don't know, because that would mean that the Mets would lose Brandon Nimmo and Jacob deGrom, and that just does not make sense to me. But things not making sense to me has never been a reason to stop them from being true. But I do think that this makes it a lot easier for the Rangers to go and spend a whole bunch of money. Obviously, they were willing to give up those second and third round picks to go sign Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. And no, John Gray did not. That's what it was. John Gray did not did not get a qualifying offer, because that was the whole thing with him, and it made literally less than 0 cents. But the Rangers gave up their second and third round picks and then picked Brock Porter in the fourth round with all the bonus money that they didn't spend on Kumar Rocker with their third overall pick. All right. That is how it is making sense in my brain, and hopefully it now makes sense in yours with the super, very clear way that I explained it. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Again, the deadline to know about Martin Perez accepting the qualifying offer is going to be on Tuesday at 3 p.m. for you folks in Central Standard Time. Free agency is open for business. It's going to be a lot of fun looking out for that. Be careful who you trust on Twitter. Make sure you check that their check mark is verified, even though they took out some of the Twitter blue people who are just paying to impersonate Jeff Passan. It's at Jeff Passan, at Ken_Rosenthal. Don't be duped by the fake accounts, and best of luck to you figuring out what's what. And I will be back to talk to y'all on Monday, hopefully with some really great free agent news. That'll do it for this edition of Locked On Rangers, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.